In 2016, in particular, both the Conservative Party of the UK and, of course, the Republican Party in America, their version of their own Conservative Party, will agree that we both did something incredibly stupid. We voted for Brexit, they voted in Trump. Neither of which really proved to be a very good decision. But here's the thing. With Brexit and the fact that we haven't reversed it, there has been an increasingly more moving towards the fact that, yeah, Brexit was a bad decision and that maybe, we need to rethink that decision. I have said multiple times, I think in the next parliament, we are actually going to have proper, debates and discussions about Brexit, because if you try to have one now in this current parliament or even the last one, it gets shouted down, it gets annoyed, people get, you have Jacob Rees-Mogg standing up shouting, going against the will of the people. When you ask what it was, the will of the people, was it, leaving the single market and customs union, when Leave's literature very clearly stated that they would never leave the single market and customs union. Even, of course, their own brain of Brexit, Daniel Hannan, saying that they would never do that. But you have Donald Trump, and Donald Trump, I would argue, has somehow managed to wind his way so deep into the Conservative Party that trying to, excise him from that body would be so painful to the Republican Party and so difficult that it would break the Republican Party even more so than our own currently incredibly fractured Conservative Party here. Yes, they're about to go on and have their own civil war. You saw from the recent party conference, it wasn't so much as a conference given by the current governing body of the country. It seemed more to be, hey, here's my leadership speech, and here's some speeches that were almost far more reminiscent of a party being in opposition than in actual power. Like I say, we got rid of our Donald Trump. Boris Johnson, even by his own Conservative Party, was thrown out and excised from the Conservative Party. There still may be problems in the Conservative Party. There still might some supporters, but the idea that Boris Johnson is seen as some sort of kingmaker or, lords over the GOP in a great state, not really at all. My predictions about Boris Johnson in particular would be that, he would go off and, start writing columns, or even more, I think he'd find himself more at home having his own YouTube channel or YouTube show. I'm quite surprised that hasn't happened yet. But who knows? Like I say, there's still time. I still see him probably maybe occupying that spot eventually, but we'll see. But as for the Republican Party, just look at their current mess. Their speaker, Kevin McCarthy, the guy who wanted to be speaker from the moment he entered politics, part of what was dubbed as the new young guns of Republican Party politics, that would be guiding Republican thought, theory, and policy for the next decades, if not more. Well, not only was he ousted by his own Republican Party extremists, but he then left the Republican Party. He stepped down. So we now have to ask a question: how on earth did the Republican Party fall so far to a point where even our own Conservative Party sort of looks good in comparison? I'm not saying they are, the paragon of conservatism or anything like that, but hey, at least when we've had individuals in the Conservative Party in the UK, they've at least gone, maybe we should get rid of them. And even though there are still some quite extremists there, at least they have handled them when it has come time. Meanwhile, of course, the American Republican Party seems to do anything but. So, before we go more into this, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and one additional link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And of course, as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel. Even if you do, just click the like and share button. And of course, down below as well, there's the YouTube thank you button and the Pony Club as well. So, how did all this start? How did this infection happen? Well, I would say, to me, it was the Tea Party. The Tea Party represented a rump of the Republican Party in action, and we knew right from the start that it was an astroturf movement by I think who were they now? The Koch brothers. That was it. They astroturfed this movement for one reason in particular. They wanted tax cuts. However, very, very quickly, it became obvious they lost control of this grassroots movement. They lost all reason, all reality, talking about how Obama was maybe secretly born in Kenya and that he wasn't really even a proper, an American-born citizen. And this was allowed to continue. And this has only gotten worse. They have delved more into conspiracy theories, more into what can only be described as trolling the Democrat Party, not really wanting to make good policy other than to settle these what are seen as perceived slights by those members of the Republican voting section of America. It has become a party that is now incapable, I think, of even really governing. That even now questions the legitimacy of the current ruling party, which sort of undermines their own democracy. But how did it get even worse than this? Well, it was ultimately Donald Trump. And while Republicans, from what we can tell from people like Mitt Romney, who have come out and said, yeah, in the back rooms, we were all rolling our eyes, laughing at the incompetence of this guy, saying how bad he was. Meanwhile, they would have to twist themselves into all sorts of shapes to try and defend all the indefensible stuff that Trump was saying. The fact that now he's got all these convictions, he's got 4 indictments against him. He's just lost his business license in New York, although, of course, there is current appeal ongoing. So who knows whether he will end up regaining it, or who knows at this point, to be honest. And yet they still support him. The supporting block of Trump has never really changed. It's just been very, very stagnant. He hasn't gained popularity, but he hasn't lost it either, which is even more shocking. It just goes to show you how bad it has become, that block will forever support Trump. And it is supposedly about a 30% support of the Republican Party. I think in the current primary polls, I think he's like 45% ahead. He is going to win. But when it comes to a general election, the American public is not going to vote for him. He's going to lose. And of course, well, we'll get probably Trump's again reaction from that, saying all kinds of, crazy nonsense. But this, McCartney especially was even more interesting, because when it came for him to want to be speaker, he made an absolute Faustian pact with Trump and like the Trump loyalists. He said, make me speaker, I'll give you everything you want. And even worse, he gave them the opportunity to have a reduced minority, so that only one of them could say, we are calling a vote to oust you as speaker. And that's what happened. He made a deal with the Democrats to get a spending bill through so there wouldn't be a government shutdown. And of course, Matt Gaetz came out and said, we are removing him. Now, ultimately, a lot of people have said that Matt Gaetz has burned any political career he might ever have in the future, because there's a lot of Republicans who now won't trust him. Of course, the Republican fanatics in the section of the party absolutely love him. So whether he will have a future career or not is not in doubt. I think he's going to be around forever. But the idea of him being trusted by the rest of the Republican Party, oh, absolutely not. And now the question becomes, how can they get rid of Trump? How can they get rid of Trump? Well, we've seen individuals like Liz Cheney. She stood up and talked about how bad Trump was after January the 6th constantly. What happened to her? She was removed from power in the Republican Party, and she was challenged in a primary by a MAGA Republican and lost. And unless there is a genuine mass rising of those Republicans who generally hate Trump and want to get rid of him, they ain't going to get rid of him, because that's how we got rid of Boris Johnson. There were constant rumblings, in our party leading up to his eventual removal. So in the Conservative Republican Party, so the Conservative in the UK Conservative Party, constantly saying no, we need to get rid of him. We need to get rid of him. This got louder and louder and louder and louder until finally they got rid of him, and they even refused to form a government with him at the head of. So he was left with no option but to leave. Are the Republicans brave enough to even do that? No. Because even Kevin McCarthy, who apparently behind closed doors has said he hates Trump, went down to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring of Donald Trump so that he could become speaker. No one really knows when Trump's influence will end with the party or what will happen. But I think so long as Donald Trump's alive, he's going to have a massive influence over the party, a massive influence. And unless, shall we say, a number of Republicans generally stand up to him and say, right, enough is enough, we want you gone, they ain't going to do a thing. They ain't going to do a thing, because they know how dangerous that will be to their own political careers. And then, in a way, that also shows them that really they're more concerned about their own political careers than they are with really trying to govern and run America. Which, again, speaks to a large problem within the party. But there you go. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And, of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.